Hello, this is Brian again. Welcome to part 2 of my spotlight on Torrey Pines video. So, I wanted to get to one of the larger Torrey Pines, the type you'll see deeper in canyons where there's more moisture availability. So, here you have it. This is one of the larger ones. Just look at this one. You can see them get quite large, and this one's got a very girthy trunk. So again, this is Pinus torreyana, subspecies torreyana. Quite a lavish plant here. This is definitely a lavish specimen. Been by this one before. I've been to this park a couple times. It's been a good few years, but been by this tree before, and I've always been in awe of this individual. There are a lot of decent sized ones in this canyon too. There's another one, very broad domed, probably about 50 feet tall. This is probably closer to 70 feet. Like I said, it's not very common to see triple digit foot size specimens, like 100 foot plus in the wild. You have actually a better chance of seeing that in cultivation. So as I was talking about earlier, these trees are in cultivation, especially heavily so in coastal San Diego County. And in cultivation is where they can really get big. This one is, of course, a wild specimen here. This is a wild tree. But they can get like this and even taller in cultivation. These trees respond pretty well. If they're, I wouldn't keep them soaking wet, obviously, because they're not really built to have the roots being soaking wet. But if you provide a little bit more moisture in cultivation, a little bit more moisture, like I said, don't overdo it. Never overdo it with a California native plant, unless it's a willow or something else that grows specifically in riparian sectors. But with a little supplemental irrigation, these trees will do quite well in cultivation. Again, they're supposed to be pretty heat tolerant. I've read that they can even tolerate some level of desert heat, potentially. Okay, so what's another thing that pines are known for besides pine needles? They're cones. And Torrey pine is no different. So let's go look at some cones so you can see what they look like. Again, being closely related to Coulter pines and gray pines, Torrey pines also have quite large cones, but not nearly as large as Coulter, not even quite as large as gray pines, but they are quite large, quite heavy. They're kind of a medium tan brown, and they do have a little bit of a claw at the end, which becomes a little sharp prickle. So again, like a modest version of a gray pine, just not as large of a claw as a gray pine has, and definitely not nearly as large a claw as a Coulter pine cone would have. But this is a fairly average sized Torrey pine cone right here. And it's quite heavy. It's about 2 to 3 pounds. Okay, might get up to about 3 pounds. So if you were to get hit by one, you would be in a lot of pain. Probably injured. So again, identifying features of Torrey pine are those egg-shaped cones. Older ones obviously weather into a more grayish color, but egg-shaped cones with a miniature, like a very wide wedged shaped prickle at the end. Furrowed bark, furrowed grayish brown bark that sometimes plates out with age, like this one is starting to plate out. Needles in bundles of 5, with kind of a grayish color. The color I would say is probably closer to Coulter pine than gray pine. Gray pine is much grayer in color, but Torrey pines have a little bit of a grayish hue in them. Probably more similar to Coulter pine than gray pine. But what can I say? Incredibly beautiful tree, and I love when they get real big like this. Like I said, if you drive along the streets of San Diego or the freeways, you'll see a lot of these broad dome trees are actually outside of the preserve, and they're in the neighborhoods, little local neighborhoods. They have houses and condos and apartments, and a lot of those are trees that are beyond there. Those really broad, lush-looking trees, those are actually cultivated ones. They're very heavily cultivated here in San Diego County, for good reason. It's great to have a native tree that's adapted to the local conditions, that could actually even perform even more superbly with some supplemental watering. Like, again, I admonish, just don't overdo it. Don't keep them soaking wet. They'll rot. But a little supplemental moisture, these trees will get quite large. So, I know this clip is a little bit shorter than the previous clip, but I wanted to break this up into a two-part series today because I just had to get to this tree. So, there you have it. Mainland Torrey Pine, Pinus torreyana, subspecies torreyana. This was Spotlight on Trees with Brian. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you found it helpful in identifying Southern California native flora. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another video. Enjoy.